Thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks very much for people particularly standing in that door. I couldn't enter the room. So ultimately, I had to request that I'm the speaker, please allow me to go in. And after that, they allowed me to go in. Wonderful. Thanks very much. In 14, 15 minutes, I'm going to take you through the antithyroid drugs, how much and how long. So I'll be talking a bit fast. So whatever question is there, certainly we'll be happy to discuss there. These are some of my disclosures. I take certainly the responsibility of the text of all of this talk, but I'm very thankful because some of the slides I've taken from Abbott, Dr. Milind, and one of my very close friend, come senior, come philosopher and guide, Dr. Muralidharan of Chandigarh. In Amritsar, in Punjabi language, outside on the lab, it was written, and I quote, and then I couldn't read, and I translated it with some of my friend in PGI days, that for you it may be udin and potty, but for us it is sabji and roti. What exactly it meant that you are bringing a stool and urine sample, but we do that taste and earn money, and that's how we get our bread and butter. I think this is a perfect, it comes in front of the screen. This is a perfect statement for endocrinologist and thyroid. We just love this thyroid thing, talking, listening, everything. A simple approach to the patient of thyroid disorder. Next 2-3 minutes, I want to take you to the place where from I want to start antithyroid drug, how much and how long. So functional, anatomical, etiological. Function of the thyroid gland is to produce thyroid hormone, whether this thyroid gland is producing normal or not. Euthyroid, hypothyroid, hyperthyroid. Irrespective of the function, whether this person is a goiter or not, if that goiter is creating any problem or not. And then comes etiology, which is very, very important. Unless we know why this person has a thyroid problem, we will be stuck after some days. So here, in the functional, we are talking about hyperthyroidism. This person's thyroid gland is producing overactive extrathyroid hormone. We know the classic symptoms. We know very classic signs of we see every day. I'm sure each and everybody has seen some thyroid cases, and that's typical. A British saying was there. The face of a secretary on a Friday evening, where they work 5 days in a week. So Friday evening, secretary is a very excited, job is done, long weekend is there. I will take a junior doctor to pay for my bill in the pub. So next comes etiology. It's very, very important to find out why this person's thyroid is overactive before you start an antithyroid drug, because initially we'll give a beta blocker and antithyroid drug, but subsequently our treatment will depend whether we are dealing with Graves' disease, thyroiditis with transient thyrotoxicosis, or a toxic nodule or toxic multinodular goiter, which is an autonomous condition. This nodule or nodules are producing more thyroid hormone. So initially we'll give, then if you have a Graves' disease, you have 3 choices: medical treatment, surgery, and iodine. If you have thyroiditis, you may give little bit of antithyroid drug for a short while, but mostly observation of the beta blocker. And if it is a toxic nodular goiter, after making them euthyroid, we should proceed for ablation, either a surgical ablation or iodine ablation. But now there are a lot of data coming for a long-term antithyroid drug giving in these people. So this is what I wanted to tell you. Now, when I'm talking about how much and how long, so we are talking about Graves' disease and a toxic nodular, toxic multinodular goiter. If we have decided that we are giving this person a long-term antithyroid drug, whether they are not happy to take iodine, they are not happy to give surgery, they cannot go for surgery, and so on. So these are the 3 antithyroid drugs we have. All of us use them: carbimazole, methimazole, and propylthiouracil. Propylthiouracil is more protein bound. That's the reason it is a bit less potent, I believe. And it has an extra advantage, is blocking 5' dehydrogenase enzyme, which inhibits the conversion between T4 and T3. So carbimazole to be given 1 to 2 times a day, 520 milligram tablet. Propylthiouracil 2 to 3 times a day, because there's more times, so compliance may not be very good. And we have last around 7-8 years. We have methimazole available with us. Is once a day, and this is the first medicine of choice at least in US. So if we are giving for a toxic nodular, toxic multinodular goiter, we have decided to give a long-term medical therapy. Do you have the evidence? There is actually wonderful evidence there published last year, which they have done. They have followed people nearly 100 months. So you can imagine, more than 8 years, people. And then ultimately what essentially came that if you give methimazole toxic multinodular goiter, say elderly people, nothing you're going to lose. Side effects are not much. Hypothyroidism becomes less, but as opposed to giving radioiodine therapy, you make them hypothyroid, and hypothyroid certainly is not a benign disorder. It's just not putting a thyroxine is not the treatment. So long-term, low-dose methimazole treatment for 60 to 100 months is a safe and effective method for treatment of toxic multinodular goiter, and is probably not inferior to radioiodine treatment. But our main concern will remain about Graves' disease. And here we are. We can treat them medically, or we can ablate the gland by surgery or radioactive iodine. Now, interestingly, if you see the changing treatment pattern of three forms of therapy, medical, surgery, and iodine in United States from 2005 to 2014, I can see that the red one, the radioactive iodine, actually is coming down, and antithyroid drug is going up. Initially, it was the opposite. You will remember reading the newspaper when George Bush and Barbara Bush, they collapsed because of atrial fibrillation. They were diagnosed with Graves' disease along with their dog. I don't know what is the relation of why the dog got Graves' disease. But they're just policy. Blast the gland, radioactive iodine, put them on entoxin. That's mainly because insurance companies, I believe, they guide their mode of therapy. If you have to see again and again the thyroid patient in the clinic, they are very rich people, endocrinologists in US, because their average consultation around $250. I think Uday is 2,500 rupees, I think, Uday. A little less than that. Okay. You're a rich person, Uday. So methimazole should be used in every non-pregnant patient who chooses antithyroid therapy for Graves' disease. Place per PTU certainly is there. If there is a minor side effect like a skin rash, itching, urticaria, joint pain, we can switch. But if there is a major side effect like agranulocytosis, hepatic dysfunction, you should not think to give another antithyroid drug. We should not give PTU. So PTU changing is only for minor side effect. We see around 3 to 5% probably in general. And I think Dr. Altamesh has nicely mentioned that is the recommendation, although we should not swallow that as a gospel, because there is a lot of problem. It is very debatable, and there are a lot of data are there. Even methimazole in the first trimester is not harmful. The reason why the recommendation is given that PTU you should change to methimazole in second and third trimester, because the PTU-induced hepatic dysfunction is a bit dreadful. They go to fatty liver and acute hepatic failure. Which regimen is followed? This is my simple cartoon. In the x-axis is the time. In the y-axis is the thyroid hormone. This is normal, this is high, this is low. Once you have diagnosed your thyroid hormone are high, you give antithyroid treatment, the report comes down, you continue this, report goes down. To prevent that, you reduce the dose or you titrate the dose to keep them clinically and biochemically euthyroid. So this is called a titration regimen. We are giving only antithyroid drug. Other option, you give a small dose of thyroxine and continue both of them. So antithyroid drug will block, thyroid hormone will not allow it to come down, which is called block and replacement regimen. A lot of people may not be using, but this is a very effective mode of therapy. We have plenty of people on block and replacement therapy. I'll show you one slide from my data as well. How long to continue? That's meta-analysis, probably the best at this point you see, even if it is nearly 20 years old. 18 months probably an acceptable term. There is nothing wrong in that. When we start and the people telling 18 months over, should we start, okay, this lady's children has exam, we wait for another 2 months, 3 months, nothing will happen. 20 months, 22 months, nothing will happen. They're pretty safe medicine. You have tolerated so long, you can try a bit longer as well. There are some predictors there, clinically and laboratory-wise, which you can see this is the person with the Graves' disease may not respond, may not go to remission with antithyroid drug or medical treatment. If they have big goiter, if the dose requirement very high, definition of very high is difficult, probably around 30 to 40 milligram methimazole. Laboratory diagnosis very high hormonal level, increased T3-T4 ratio, very important. Increased T3 ratio looks like it's not going to respond to medical therapy. It will not go to remission. They will respond, but once you withdraw, it will come back. And important is that TSH receptor antibody, not TMA-TGA. If the TSH receptor antibody titer remains high after 6 months, the chance of remission with the medical therapy is a bit less. I just trying to quote you quickly one of my studies which we have done and published in our thyroid research only. We wanted to see our people treated with medical treatment versus iodine, very few people treated for surgery. And as a routine, we always do a block and replacement therapy because the fluctuation becomes less. With a significant follow-up, if you see, around 19% out of 42, 19% in 5 years who has relapsed. That means 80% people are remission after stopping the treatment around 18 to 20 months, which is pretty good. Hypothyroidism much higher, but also 19% develop a spontaneous hypothyroidism without iodine. And we added one of the satisfaction value, and actually as it looks like most of the people in the medical therapy are more satisfied than iodine therapy. One of the main reasons because the word radio, they think that it will go some cancer or something like that. And the next thing is that how much is very, very important. This would look at this gentleman is very carefully titrating the dose. So if you give it 20 milligram and 40 milligram, that's a study available, very nice study, which very clearly showed as understandable. If you give a higher dose, your chance of response will be much quicker. Then another study published in 1996, so it is around 25 years old. This is actually a very nice study, Tony Whitman group. So they found that if your diagnostic total thyroid hormone is more than 21 microgram per deciliter, normal value is 5 and 12. If it is more than 21 microgram, you better give a big dose, which is around 40 milligram of carbimazole, or equivalent around 30 milligram of methimazole. So we can take this home, take this message home very nicely. If your total T4 is high at diagnosis, above that particular level, you should start with a higher dose. But if it is less, probably you can start with a 20 milligram of carbimazole. And there are some guidelines available in the European Journal of Endocrinology 2 years back that this tells that more than upper limit of normal of this much, you should start on this much. I'm not very fond of guideline, but you are welcome to follow. It can follow a usual guideline. Whatever we do, we need to see how the person is responding. 3 minutes left. I'll finish with my pregnancy and the children's slide, otherwise it's not good. Medical treatment is always successful. All the time we have been told that if the person doesn't respond in the pregnancy, in the second trimester, you do thyroid surgery. Anybody has done any thyroid surgery had to do in the pregnancy in the second trimester? Anybody? Because of uncontrolled hyperthyroidism? I have never seen, but it is written in the book. PTU in the first trimester followed by methimazole. As I told you, it's a controversial, but guidelines tell you can practice that. And the reasoning I told you, dose depends. Most of the people, Altames told that do not require, most of the people, antithyroid drug in the third trimester. That because the pregnancy is a naturally anti-immune condition. Like it happens with the rheumatoid arthritis, it happens with the SLE, it happens with the Graves' disease also. And there is an increased chance of relapse after 2 weeks after delivery is very, very important. So hypothyroidism people will do the check after 6 weeks, but hyperthyroid people will do after 2 weeks of delivery. And although it is not in this context, but I must tell you that we all must encourage the breastfeeding. ATD is completely safe in the breastfeeding. There is some wrong message keeps on going. A smaller dose of ATD, nothing, no significant amount comes in the breast milk. Children, can you give a long-term antithyroid drug? Yes, we can give. As you see that years after diagnosis, even 12 years after diagnosis, if you give an antithyroid drug, nicely people remain in remission. So antithyroid drug for how long in the children pediatric age group is definitely an option. So my take-home message will be, we should initiate treatment with the antithyroid drug in all patients with the Graves' disease and toxic nodule or nodules to achieve a euthyroid state. And then we see, depending on the etiology, where we are going. Also, we try to see the clinical and biochemical parameters, a large goiter, T3, T4 ratio, TSH receptor antibody, requirement very high dose of antithyroid drug, whether in our mind, this particular person is going to go remission with the medical treatment or not. Whatever happens, we should take the patient into confidence so that we can do a shared decision making and it doesn't come in a blame game. We should explain the options of the patient, and one of my teacher in endocrinology used to tell in the first visit when they come, don't discuss too many times because they are toxic, they're jittery, they can't retain information. Explain that you have overactive thyroid, you give a beta blocker, you give antithyroid, let them come back 3 to 4 weeks time, then you start giving them option. Too much information in the first time you give, they can't retain it. Many patients will opt for a sufficiently prolonged trial of antithyroid drug before planning the ablation. And in children, adolescents, and patients with ophthalmopathy, I didn't touch that because radioactive iodine can sometimes worsen the gaps of ophthalmopathy. So people with ophthalmopathy, prolonged ATD therapy, anti-thyroid drug therapy is definitely an option. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Now,